Welcome to the Everything Co-working podcast. This is your host, JB Russo. I am recording this at the very beginning of July. I cannot believe it's July. You probably can't either. We will just move on from that. But you have a couple of months of opportunity to use what are probably some slower summer months for you, although I have plenty of clients who are really busy right now. So, not for all of you, but summer can be a time to work with your team and identify some opportunities that you want to go after in the fall when we get into our back to school mindset. And sometimes the hardest part is understanding where the opportunity is. What should you be focusing on? What's possible in your business? So, I have some ideas for you for adding revenue and profit to your business. So, we're going to do a few episode series on adding revenue to your business. And the first episode we're going to do here is to go through the revenue that you're probably leaving on the table in non-workspace revenue. I see this across the board, smaller operators, larger operators. There are plenty of really profitable operators who have nailed this. So if you're listening and you have a profit margin in the high 20s, your revenue is closer to $70 a foot, you're killing it. And the reason you're killing it is because you are not only focused on workspace revenue. So here is the thing. It is very challenging to run a highly profitable co-working business without leveraging, growing, focusing on non-workspace revenue. So what do I mean what's workspace versus non-workspace? Let's start there. So I love to talk about kind of benchmarks and percentages because the benefit that I have, and I totally geek out about this, is I look at pro formas all day long. I build pro formas. I see pro formas. I see what's working and not working. And I work with a lot of clients who are in just different phases of their co-working business. So I see a lot of what's happening in businesses and I see patterns. And one of the patterns I see is that it is difficult, I'm just going to repeat this one more time, to have a really high margin business if you're only focused on selling your workspace. One of the first things I want to point out also, because I think this is a big myth, if you're new to co-working, this is very important. If you're running a co-working space, sometimes we see symptoms and we don't totally understand what's happening with the numbers. So this is going to be useful whether you are new or already operating. So your P&L is broken down by product types. So workspace, which will be private office, co-working memberships, dedicated desks. I'm going to focus on the big line items, not, day passes, which don't usually mean a lot to most of you. So that revenue is typically, if for a really profitable operator, 60 to 70% of total revenue. 60 to 70%. That means that 30 to 40% of profitable space revenue comes from other sources. So if you are running a space and you're trying to be super profitable and you're trying to hit the margins we talk about on the podcast, it's going to be hard for you to get there because you need revenue from other sources. This is a complicated business. Dear SBA, Small Business Administration Office, you decided you would stop lending to co-working spaces because it looks like passive income to you. It is not. It is not, because it's hard to be very profitable by only selling private offices. And I also want to mention this because I think for a lot of you just starting out, you're looking at spaces, you're reverse engineering what they look like from the outside, and it is hard to know what the actual P&L looks like. So when you look at a co-working space, you're often seeing a lot of open space, flex space when you walk into a space. So it might look like the revenue is coming from co-working memberships. It is not. For profitable operators, 10% of their revenue out of their workspace revenue is flex and dedicated desks. Sometimes it can be a little more, but I'll tell you across the board, it's really generally not. So if your total revenue is 70%, then 60% of that revenue is from offices. Your total workspace revenue is 70%. 60% of that is from offices. So this is frustrating, like for the 80-20 people out there. You want to focus on the things that really make a difference. So that still holds true in the sense that you have to nail the pricing on your offices. You can't get into a situation where you're discounting deeply versus what you built out in your pro forma. You have to have occupancy. So you have to have seat price and occupancy in order to be profitable on your offices. So you cannot let that go. You have to really focus on that because that is 70% of your revenue. But to hit that margin, you need the other sources of revenue. And those sources are generally virtual mail, virtual digital mail, meeting rooms, event space. All three, amazing. One or two with a lot of focus, great. So I want to do an example. Let's look at the math. And I'm going to screen share. If you're watching on YouTube, we're going to do a little example. Okay. So we have two operators, same workspace revenue, 26,000. One is office focused. Operator A is office focused. Operator A is in blue. Operator B in green is focused on other types of revenue. So same workspace revenue, which again, offices, desks, co-working memberships. Meeting rooms for operator A, 8,000 a month. Operator B, 13,000 a month. Now, not everybody in every market is going to be able to hit $8,000 or $13,000 a month in meeting room revenue. Totally possible in lots of markets. I see it all the time. So hang in there and consider what some focus on these products could mean for your business. Events, 3,500 for operator A, twice as much, 7,000 for operator B. Virtual mail, 2,500 a month, which is nothing if you have a decent address and put some focus against this product and are utilizing all of the lead gen partners. 4,000 for operator B. Those numbers could easily be larger. So operator A, doing meetings, events, and virtual mail, not fully optimized, is hitting $40,000 a month in revenue. Operator B, same space size, same workspace membership, almost twice as much, roughly, in ancillary revenue, $50,000 a month. Monthly expenses, a little higher for operator B. And this is probably a little oversimplified. Your fixed staff can probably do the mail. If you're doing events, you probably need some additional contractors, but that's probably not going to run you much more than $35,000 or an incremental $3,000 a month. So monthly profit for operator A, 8,000. Monthly profit for operator B, 15,000, almost twice as much. That's a big deal. Profit margin for A, 20%. Profit margin for B, 30%. This is where the game is made. It is not made in the workspace, although it is made in the workspace. You have to nail the workspace. Again, I'm not saying that you don't. That's roughly 80% of your revenue. Sorry, it's 70% of your revenue. It's going back to the 80-20 rule. You want to think about the 80-20 rule. It is very, very critical, but you can't stop there, is the point I'm trying to make. Yes, absolute optimization of your workspace, product, revenue, office sizes, all those things. And this example, by the way, assumes that you have a very optimized layout. This does not assume that you don't have enough offices or that your offices are too big. This will not probably hold true if you don't have an optimized workspace. And if you don't have an optimized workspace, then it makes it even more important that you focus on these ancillary sources. If you are in a lease and you are trying to maximize your revenue per square foot and your office sizes are too big, or you have some other challenge, you don't have enough offices, your workspace revenue is finite, it's fixed, and it's going to be lower than you need it to be in order to hit a decent margin. So you might be sitting at a pretty low margin if you've got some things about your workspace design that are suboptimal. So this is especially important for you to be focused on the meeting rooms, events, and mail. That is a giant difference. Let's play this out on an annualized basis. So your monthly revenue gap is $10,000 a month. The annual gap is $120,000 a month. That's a big difference, right? Over 10 years, that's $1.2 million in incremental revenue because you focused on non-workspace revenue. So that's a pretty big deal. And in terms of profit, that's $84,000 a year times 10, $840,000 in profit. And that impacts your business valuation, which I don't really want to spend a lot of time talking about right now, but something to consider. So if you are in the boat of noticing, now that we're talking about this, that you have an opportunity to optimize your focus on non-workspace revenue, then you want to think about which channel makes sense for you to focus on. 3 options, and you're probably not going to kill it on all 3 areas. I will pick event space to start with. Event space is unusual for operators to be sitting on, but let me give you a couple of thoughts. If you have a large flex space that is beautifully designed, maybe it's retail level, and you start to realize, oh, my co-working revenue is only 10% of my revenue, and it's unlikely to be a lot higher. This might be your opportunity to say, okay, let's refocus. Let's just know that it's very hard to build co-working revenue. I'm not saying it's impossible, but know that a lot of successful operators out there hit a cap, it's 10% of their revenue. So if you're pushing and pushing on that and just waiting for the day that it's 20%, that may not be coming. And so if you have flex space and you can repurpose that on nights and weekends, then this could be a great opportunity for you to move into events. Now, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on the how-to of events. It is a different business. It's a different business model. You have to kind of want to do it or be highly motivated to make this a big part of your revenue because it's nights and weekends. And you're going to need staff to do the nights and weekends. You're going to need probably a salesperson to sell events. For all 3 of these options, you are going to need to put in time, focus, and marketing resources, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I think events is probably the one that is least applicable to most of you, but absolutely could be an opportunity. And think about this as a business person. You don't have to be the one who runs the P&L for the events. You can create a little, I just did this for a client recently who has absolutely beautiful, fabulous event space that is underutilized, mostly because it's undersold. And you need a specific resource to sell event space. You need a salesperson and someone who understands events and who buys events. So, and someone who can create the contracts and, staff them. I mean, you could run this very, very simply and your community manager could handle it. I have a client in LA whose community manager does all of it. It's probably not 100% optimized, but they have a great CRM in place. They have pricing. They have all the marketing materials. They have gorgeous photography of their events, and their community manager sells those events, but it's all inbound leads. So this client happens to be in a very significant market, a large market with a lot of demand. So that's possible. But what I would encourage you to think about is sort of separate P&L and hire some resources to run it. Again, does not have to break the bank. It's not a full-time resource. It can be a part-time resource. And also think about, is there underutilized space in your building so that you could do a rev share with your landlord so that you don't have to sit on the rent liability of event space. That's usually the sort of challenging piece of event space. If you're not multi-purposing that event space, it is a big liability for you to have it sitting empty during the day, for example, and not being able to monetize it. So events may or may not be for you, but they're also bigger ticket. So for virtual mail, for example, you're selling, let's say, $100 packages. You have to sell a lot of $100 packages to get to $1,000 in recurring revenue. But you can sell $1,000 event space pretty quickly. Let's say your event space is $200 an hour. You need a 5-hour event, done. So give and take, and you have to find the one that is a fit for you. Let's talk about meeting rooms because it's kind of adjacent to event space, not the same user. Meeting room users can be recurring. And I think the important thing to know about meeting rooms is that if they're underbooked, then you have a big opportunity here, assuming you have parking and assuming you have decent meeting rooms. I have worked with folks who just don't have good meeting rooms. Not great furniture, not great lighting, interior, for whatever reason, just cannot get the bookings. I'm not saying that your meeting room should be on window lines. That's a big industry debate that we'll save for another time. But there are a lot of ways to make compelling meeting rooms. Great light fixtures, great styling in the room, great furniture, great floor tile, great amenities in the room. There are a lot of examples out there of really well-styled meeting rooms that don't have natural light, but you have to be really intentional about the design and have great photography. The one thing I'll say about meeting rooms, and this warrants a full episode on its own, is that it is all about the e-commerce experience and the conversion rate on your e-commerce. So Office R&D just did a big upgrade to both Growth Hub, and the reason behind that is e-commerce and conversion rate. 1990s interfaces do not convert. If you don't believe it, you can choose not to, and you're not going to grow your meeting room business. We've seen it almost completely across the board. Again, sometimes with some exceptions where the product is just not great or the market is unusual and doesn't have a lot of meeting room demand. Meeting room bookings go up when the booking interface is optimized. So Office R&D Growth Hub, FlexSpace.ai, I think Optics has a good interface. Wait, is that right? CoWorks, I think so, has a good interface. I have not looked at some of the other platforms, but FlexSpace.ai in particular, I have seen a lot of great data from that checkout experience. So that's going to be one big opportunity for you if you have good meeting rooms. But you're going to start with the product and make sure you have an excellent product, even if it's not perfectly located within your space. You're going to style and you're going to get great photography, and you're going to use a platform that makes for a very modern, very simple checkout experience. And you're going to make sure you're priced really well. Okay, so I want to just move. Oh, virtual mail. Let's not forget about that. You know, I love virtual mail. We do not have a date set for it, but we have been running a virtual mail. I call it the money-making mailbox challenge. A couple times a year. We have not run it in 2026 yet. So stay tuned. We might get that on the calendar because this is one of the more underutilized opportunities. And the other thing I want to say about these ancillary revenue opportunities is that you want to start these right away. I understand that you want to ease into the business and there's a lot to figure out when you first open, but these take time to build. Event business, meeting room business, virtual mail business, just like the ramp on your office space is going to take time. So this should not be an afterthought. This should not be something you do in year 3 when you sort of feel like you know what you're doing. You want to start it right away. So just go after it because that's where your margin is. Okay, so business or virtual mail, digital mail, whatever you want to call it, you do not need to have a spectacular address, but if you do, then you have a big opportunity. But you cannot leverage that opportunity unless you really focus on it. So I will say it is almost never that you're not going to have any virtual mail revenue if you run a good program and you do all the things that you need to do to market, price, and make it an e-commerce product. If I can't buy your mail product online, you're not going to sell it. And if you're not signed up with the lead gen partners, you're not going to have the volume that you're hoping for. Yes, it's some work for your team. That is solvable, and I'm not going to cover this on this podcast. You either want that revenue or you don't. And I can tell you, most operators consider it completely worth it. So you might have a killer business address in a market, and it doesn't have to be a fancy market. It could be a medium-sized city, but you have, a building on the main street that people want. You could just be in a market where you don't have a lot of other competition except the UPS store. So there are a lot of reasons that people buy virtual mail packages. I'm not going to sell you on that right now. I will tell you that some operators make this 20% of their revenue. So again, when I talk about the mix, some operators don't spend any time on events because it's not a good fit for them. So that extra 30% is made up of mail and meeting rooms. And the meeting rooms might be 10% and the mail 20%. That's a big deal, and that takes a lot of focus and effort and time, but it's totally possible. So this is a big part of the opportunity on the extra 30%. Okay, so now I want to talk about how you get there, because the difference between operator A and operator B, operator A does not have zero revenue in these categories, right? It has revenue. Operator B has twice as much revenue in those categories, and I will tell you why. Sometimes it might be the market, might be the product, it might be things that are not really influenceable. Again, you don't have to nail all three of them, but you probably have to nail two of them. So what I want to see is focus. And here's what I mean by that: a clearly defined product and an optimized product. So really thinking through if you're going to do meeting rooms and virtual mail, for example. These are not difficult, and yet if you design your product really well, can make the difference between some revenue and significant revenue every single month. The e-commerce process, you have to have it completely optimized. We cannot need to call you or fill out a form in order to book these products. We need to be able to buy these products online with a very, very simple, very, very modern interface. You need to have the products priced really well. You need to have landing pages for each product. So these need to have as much focus as your offices. So a lot of times, I'll be talking to operators about their revenue, and I'll say, okay, well, let me figure out how to buy a virtual mail package on your website. And I cannot figure it out, or I have to go many clicks in, or it's hidden under workspace. And it's like, when you click on workspace and there's like a link, and then you click the link and it goes to like the, proximity scroll, and the product is actually like way down the page. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you can't actually get there. So don't fool yourself into saying you're focusing on this product if it's not optimized. And you probably need to get some really honest external feedback to make sure you're totally optimized. I'm not picking on anyone, by the way. This is normal. It's totally normal to have things in your business that are not optimized. And guess what? You're either killing it and you've already done these things, or this is an opportunity. So it's good news, but you need to commit to doing these things, because if you just want more revenue, it's not going to come. So pricing, optimized e-commerce, landing pages. So it needs to be front and center. I told someone the other day, I said, look, if you want to sell virtual mail, it needs to be a button on your navigation bar. And get rid of the about, get rid of all the other crap that no one cares about. Put it in the footer. If you haven't read Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, read the book, and then you'll be on board. Virtual mail needs to go right on your top nav bar if you want to sell virtual mail. And then you need to have a landing page that explains the product in detail and explains in 3 steps how to set it up. Doesn't make it overcomplicated. Don't tell them about the 1583 form until they've paid you. And they need to be able to buy with e-commerce. That landing page needs to be optimized for search engine optimization and the bots. And you need to invest in that and keep up with that. You have to treat it like a product that you're paying attention to every single month. And you want to track what you're doing. You want to track the growth. You want to track landing page visits. You want to track conversions. And you want to make sure that these are key performance indicators, KPIs for your team, because team sees empty offices and that's what they're focused on. But the truth is we have to be focused on everything at once. It just is the truth. You have to figure out a way to do a little bit on each of these revenue streams every single day. Doesn't have to be hours and hours, but it has to be a little bit. You also need to have your Google Business Profile optimized for these products. So if you're focused on meeting rooms, you have to have reviews that mention meeting rooms so that you comp in the search results. You have to be doing profile posts about meeting rooms. You have to have beautiful photography for your meeting rooms. Same thing with virtual mail and events. Events, one thing I have recommended to folks that I work with is having a separate Google Business Profile for your event business. That's kind of a squirrel we won't pursue right now, but give that some thought if it's a significant revenue driver. The challenge for search is if I'm searching and I'm looking for event space, but a co-working business comes up in my search, do I understand that co-working spaces have event space? Maybe, maybe not. So give that some thought. Okay, so the tracking. We want to be looking at the landing page traffic, conversion rates, and revenue from your revenue sources every single month and reviewing that with your team and identifying activities that can be done to put focus on this. If you're outsourcing your marketing, then be careful with that. But anything you're doing with external resources, make sure they understand that you have focus on these products. So if you're outsourcing your SEO, for example, then make sure your SEO person knows you want to rank for meeting rooms and you want to rank for virtual mail. That's going to be hard, but you can try. And then you want to also be talking about these revenue sources when you're out networking, when you're at the chamber events, when you're talking to local attorneys and accountants. You want to always be talking about these products in addition to your offices. You want to make sure that you represent every product line that you have. Running ads against these product lines can be challenging. It can work for events 100%. If you have a great event space and those are high ticket bookings, you can have an ROI for sure. Meeting rooms and mail are very challenging because you have to get the recurring revenue has to be very high. It's the cost of acquisition is probably not worth it for mail. And the same with meeting rooms. Very challenging to get an ROI on ad spend. I have clients who run these ads. We look at their ROI. It's hard to get, but I have clients who run ads for events and it absolutely can be done. Okay, let's wrap up. So the takeaway that I want you to have from this episode is just thinking about the fact that your revenue is probably not optimized unless you are driving significant revenue outside of your office workspace revenue. And to come to terms with the fact that your co-working business, unless you are unusual, we have unusual examples all over the place in this industry, it's probably 10% of your workspace revenue. And then your workspace revenue is 70% of your total revenue. So where is the other 30% coming from? And how do you add that up to get to a target if you're in a strong market, a bigger market, and you have a very optimized floor plan? You should be looking for $70 a square foot in revenue. Lots of reasons why that's going to be different. The market, your pricing, etc. Lots of reasons for that to be different, but I'm just giving you a number to look for and to consider as a goal. Okay, so that's what I want you to think about is what's possible and putting some focus against one or two of those revenue streams, ideally two, pick two, and create some goals and create some tracking against those goals. Okay, I would love to hear from you. Hit me up on Instagram, send me an email, and I will see you same time, same place next week.